During a stroll through the forest, a man hears a terrifying noise coming from a deserted cabin. As he investigates further and uncovers the cause of this haunting sound, he is shocked by the sight, his actions transforming his life. What would be waiting for him inside the ominous cabin? How will he deal with the danger inside? Welcome to Wonderbot Animals. Waking up with a strong urge to wander through the woods, Smith looked forward to encountering berry-filled bushes, listening to birds sing in their nests, and inhaling the crisp woodland air. What he didn't anticipate was a sound that sent shivers down his spine. The noise resembled a creature in sheer distress, tormented by unimaginable agony, emanating from a deserted cabin set amidst the trees. Having watched numerous scary films, Smith was aware this could signify danger. However, he also knew he wouldn't forgive himself if he left without identifying the source of that dreadful noise. He vowed not to step inside the cabin under any circumstance and approached the entrance with caution, eyes peeled. There, on the deck, he witnessed a scene that would haunt him for a long time. He had never imagined encountering such a sorrowful sight, and it deeply affected him emotionally. A tiny cat, injured and bleeding, was trapped inside a piece of pipe. The metal, corroded and sharp, was scraping against its small frame. More critically, it restricted the cat's breathing and inflicted unbearable pain. The diminutive cat's loud cries touched Smith's heart deeply, yet closer inspection brought even greater distress. He turned ashen when he saw the cat's eyes were just half open. This was a very young kitten. Filled with fear, Smith knew he had to act quickly to help the kitten. But how? What resources did he have? He only had his hands, and those alone weren't sufficient to break a metal pipe. Then his gaze shifted to the cabin's door. It appeared so fragile that a light kick could tear it down, but he had made a commitment not to go in. He had to prioritize his safety over helping the cat. However, the idea of leaving the helpless animal in agony due to a fear of an old building felt cowardly. Priorities, Smith murmured to himself, attempting to muster bravery. He had to get closer to the kitten, but it cowered at the sound of his voice, having never heard a human before. With a sigh, he moved forward. The kitten tried to flee, but given its weakened state and partially shut eyes, it stood no chance against an adult human. Smith bent down, rolled down his sleeve to cover his hands completely, and gently took the cat in his embrace. He hesitated to make contact for fear the oxidized pipe had contaminated it and was careful to avoid its tiny claws. As the kitten squirmed against his arms, the sharp metal injured his skin further. The tiny creature's cries grew louder, tugging at Smith's emotions once more. He knew he needed to soothe it quickly. If not, its chances were slim. Smith held the kitten close to his chest, applying a gentle pressure to minimize its wriggling. With his hand enveloped in his sleeve, he softly stroked the kitten's head, hoping the texture of his sweater might mimic the comfort of its mother's care. Fortunately, the kitten relaxed in a matter of moments. Yet, thoughts of its mother lingered. The kitten seemed too young to be out here alone. Barely a week old, was it left deliberately, or was its mother incapacitated nearby? Smith felt that the answers might be hidden inside the mysterious cottage. He just needed the bravery to examine the interior. What's the worst that could happen? He pondered, trying to embolden himself. Scenes from every horror film he'd watched flashed through his mind, but he pushed those thoughts aside. In reality, a life hung in the balance, not a cinematic plot. With the kitten secure against him, he approached the entryway again. To his surprise, the door was unlocked. Before we continue with our story, like this video to help it reach 15k likes, share and subscribe to our channel. He nudged it open with a foot, cautiously looking around before stepping in. Crossing the threshold, another sharp cry pierced the silence. Momentarily, he suspected the cottage might actually be haunted. He surveyed the surroundings, the eerie sensation intensifying. It felt as though he had inadvertently wandered into a horror scene he had hoped to evade. Could it be a spectre's cry, he speculated? Why am I even here? He questioned, contemplating retreat. Yet he halted. Despite the frightening setting, he was on a mission of compassion. This predicament struck him as both terrifying and heroic, compelling him to dismiss his fears and seek a solution to free the kitten. Venturing into the interior, the shrieking echoed once more. This time, the kitten in his embrace responded with cries of its own, leading Smith to an epiphany. The distressing sound was not of supernatural origin, but another cat's call. "How many cats are here?" he murmured to no one in particular. Entering the room, clarity dawned on him. He hadn't stumbled upon a trap or a macabre film set. Before him lay the refuge of a mother cat that had delivered in solitude within a forest cottage, yet had misplaced some of her kittens within the premises. The cabin was ancient and delicate, filled with various tools that were potentially harmful, even deadly, to the young cats. Standing there, he could spot additional metal tubes, crates, bricks, tools, and a number of sharp objects. The cry had come from the mother cat, who was darting frantically across the room. Upon spotting Smith, she froze. She sniffed the air sharply, then let out a sorrowful mew, recognizing the scent of her kitten in his embrace. Smith considered releasing the kitten, yet he understood it would become challenging to retrieve it later should he hand it back to its vigilant mother. Thus, he held the kitten closer and continued his search for an instrument to open the pesky pipe. Fortunately, he found large pliers in a corner. Now, the difficult part began. He needed a strategy to keep the kitten motionless, wedge the pliers between its body and the pipe, and exert enough force to snap the metal without injuring the kitten. Taking a deep breath, Smith laid the kitten on a small workbench. With careful movements, he positioned the pliers and started to chip away at the metal. The kittens uttered sounds of fear and discomfort, but luckily, the pipe's rust allowed it to break with minimal force. Soon, the kitten was freed from its constriction. It gasped for air as the last piece of metal fell away, then collapsed on the workbench, weary. Smith stroked it gently before setting it down beside its mother. The cat had been intensely watching him, scratching at his clothing, but now, with her kitten safe, she began nudging his legs in thanks. "Anytime," Smith laughed softly, bending down to caress her. Instantly, the mama cat picked up her kitten and moved to the opposite side of the room. She placed the kitten in her bedding and hurried back to Smith, tugging at his clothing, signaling him to follow her to another room. "What now?" he questioned as she vocalized. He agreed to follow. The subsequent room felt even more unnerving. A gaping hole in the ground drew his attention immediately. As the cat approached it, Smith grasped the situation. "Don't say a kitten fell down there," he sighed. The cat voiced her confirmation. Smith crouched, peering into the hole. To his relief, the cottage lacked a cellar, featuring only a deep footing instead. By his estimate, it was about 3 ft deep, and within it lay not one, but 2 kittens cuddled together. Casting another look at the mother cat, it seemed she had indeed deemed him the guardian of her offspring, anticipating his aid once more. Smith then proceeded to remove additional floorboards to gain better access. The timber was aged and fragile, giving way the moment he tugged at it. Gently, he descended into the gap. It was as shallow as he anticipated, yet shrouded in darkness, with the young cats hesitant to approach this unfamiliar giant. Smith had to activate the flashlight on his phone to locate them. Startled by the sudden light, the kittens squealed and protested louder when he lifted them. However, they settled down and began to purr contently once they sensed their parent cleaning them. "So this is my thanks," he stammered, climbing out of the gap and dusting off his clothes. "Is this all? Any more little ones hidden around?" The mother cat made no move to follow him, suggesting her family was now whole. Relieved, he was ready to exit this daunting place. But turning back to bid farewell, he spotted a large, menacing wound on the mother cat's abdomen. It had escaped his notice earlier. The injury looked recent, with the edges showing signs of infection. Sighing deeply once more, Smith realized his venture wasn't over yet. He made a call for a ride. Having arrived on foot, he now faced the impossibility of carrying the feline family to the nearest animal clinic by himself. the mother had grown trusting enough to let him near her offspring. As he gathered them, she expressed her disapproval with a grunt and trailed him out, vocalizing her concerns. "I'm assisting you," he assured her when she snagged his pants with her claws, tearing them. The ride driver gaped at the sight of the man, grimy and drenched in sweat, clutching 3 kittens, followed by another cat. "Surely you're not thinking of getting into my car like that?" he questioned. But Smith, drained from the ordeal, briefly shared their plight, emphasizing the urgent need for veterinary care and the risks he had taken in the abandoned house to rescue them. The driver, initially disgruntled, revealed his fondness for cats. Reluctantly, he allowed them in, driving them to the nearest veterinary clinic. The vet welcomed the feline family indoors, leaving Smith to ponder in the lobby how his day's simple plan had shifted to an emergency rescue. Reflecting on his newfound bond with the cats, his anticipation grew. Thankfully, the vet's update was positive. The mother's wound was indeed infected, but treatable with medication and cleaning. The kittens, though underfed and dehydrated, were being nurtured back to health with special milk. Once their mother recovered fully, she would resume caring for them, ensuring a complete recovery in a few weeks. Relieved and overwhelmed, Smith was moved to tears. He was perplexed by the surge of emotion he felt. These cats weren't his, yet the day's tension had overwhelmed him. If he hadn't acted on his gut feeling, those cats would have faced a grim fate. Had he shown any less courage, their survival would have been uncertain. However, he overcame his fear and managed to rescue an impressive total of 4 lives. After the cats were nursed back to health, Smith brought them home and raised them as if they were his own children. The memory of seeing the cats in such distress was unforgettable, and it fueled his determination to provide them with a better existence. He couldn't figure out how the cats had ended up abandoned in the woods, but one thing was clear. He was meant to save them, and save them he did, turning their story into a heartwarming tale. Would you dare to explore a deserted hut in the forest to help an unknown creature? Have you ever risked your own safety to rescue an animal? Share your thoughts in the comments section below, and remember to like, share, and ring that notification bell for more fantastic stories. We look forward to seeing you in our upcoming video. Until then, stay safe, and we appreciate your support.